Never underestimate the impact of a good surprise. Just as Smash DLC is about to finish up and end roster speculation for a while, a new platform fighter has been announced. Nickelodeon, of all things, has thrown their slime-covered hat into the ring with a game bringing together their own stable of iconic cartoon characters. With a blend of past and present already revealed, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl looks to appeal both to kids and their parents who tuned in when they were kids. And upon finding out that it's being developed by a team with an actual track record for this kind of thing, fighting game fans are cautiously optimistic that this might have a legitimate competitive scene. Between the reveal trailer and some other scattered information, there's a lot to take in. So let's make like Kowalski and analyze this thing. We'll be going over each of the 14 characters revealed so far, look over what we saw of their movesets to make educated guesses on how they'll fight, and talk about who else might show up between now and the game's ambiguous fall release date. I'm gonna do as best of a job as a grown-ass adult like myself can manage. Without further ado, are you ready, kids? Let's begin. And begin we will with the biggest batch of the bunch. To absolutely no one's surprise, SpongeBob SquarePants is the single most prominent franchise in the reveal trailer, and the only one with 3 fighters confirmed already. Let's see what kind of nautical nonsense is going on here. Starting with, who else? SpongeBob himself. What we see of his moveset, between his intro animation in the trailer and the gameplay clips he shows up in, shows us a concept loaded with references to the cartoon. There's a jellyfishing net, a karate glove, a move where he blows a bubble that I presume is his neutral special, the hydrodynamic spatula from the very first episode is his recovery move, and he even shows his imagination for his up smash. And there's some less obvious stuff here too, like a bite based on that time Patrick asked him to pretend to be stupid. Goes to show this dev team is not phoning it in. Seems like SpongeBob has a little of everything going on here. It wouldn't surprise me if such a well-known character is intentionally well-rounded and beginner-friendly the way Mario is in Smash. And between the fireball-like projectile, multi-hit up special, a spin maneuver I don't know where to place yet, and the potential for a down special that works like Flood, this might actually be a variant of Mario's archetype. Interesting. Next, we have Patrick following his best buddy to the brawl. The Sea Star looks to have a much more hands-on playstyle. And by that I mean I think we have a grappler on our hands. Between the bear hug command grab with a ton of burst movement at the start and a painful looking regular throw, you'll get a lot more out of grabbing opponents than pretty much anyone else. But this grappler's got more going on than just cookie-cutter wrestling moves. Just like with SpongeBob, references to stuff Patrick's done on the show are everywhere. From using a laser built into his pants, to swinging the award he got for his laziness, to slamming a phone down because he's not a crusty crab, to performing the single-scoop strawberry cone dive with a chocolate dip from the Fry Cook Games episode, this is very much a Patrick moveset. Then we have Sandy, and while we didn't see as much of her moveset compared to SpongeBob or Patrick, we still have a little to go off of. Her jetpack from the Moon episode shows up as her recovery move, and she deploys extendo boots for what appears to be her up smash, so she'll be incorporating different gadgets and inventions. We didn't see much else moveset-wise aside from this fairly basic neutral air, so we'll have to see what other parts of her personality show up. More karate techniques, sandboarding equipment, or other extreme stunts, an obligatory lasso grab? Her playstyle will depend on which of these she has access to. But who else might join in from Bikini Bottom? Squidward could pull off long-reaching attacks using his tentacles, play music with his clarinet, either badly for damage or surprisingly well for buffs, and stuff involving art or sculptures based on himself. Mr. Krabs could put his old Navy experience to use as a heavier fighter with partial armor on certain attacks, and a whole lot of moves involving money. Maybe even a mechanic where you can only spend so much per stock and players have to budget how they use his specials. Finally, Plankton could put his evil plans and college-educated intellect to work by fighting using a mech or some other kind of doomsday weapon to offset his short stature, with his computer wife Karen in tow. But SpongeBob ain't the only big name in this game. Nickelodeon took full advantage of having the rights to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by bringing in the iconic Heroes in a Half Shell, 2 of them so far, complete with an art style based on the old 1987 cartoon. Like I said, they're going for the parents too. The de facto leader Leonardo brings his ninja training to the brawl, fighting using his signature dual swords. If his intro is accurate at all, his attacks will be pretty fast. Could see an aggressive, combo-heavy fighting style not unlike Roy or Crom. Other moves that popped up in the trailer include a backstab back throw, a dive kick straight from the classic beat-em-up Turtles in Time, and a rising spin attack from the SNES version of TMNT Tournament Fighters, as if you needed any more proof that these devs care about the source material. Joining his brother is Michelangelo, showing what he's capable of when he actually puts effort in instead of slacking off. He gets a lot of mileage out of his 2 sets of nunchucks, grabbing the end of one and spinning the other end, swinging both like blunt objects, you name it. He also has a special where he spins around on the back of his shell like a breakdancer. That'll be good out of shield. Then there's this uppercut based on a move Raphael had in Tournament Fighters, which is weird, but hey, we'll see how he plays in the final game, though I wouldn't be surprised if his moveset has a learning curve. That's a difficult weapon to get the hang of. Good luck narrowing down who else could show up alongside them, because this franchise has a lot of good options. Raph and Donnie being the obvious picks. There's no guarantee that all 4 turtles have to be playable, but since they do all have unique weapons that lend toward different fighting styles, I still think it's more likely than not. But there are more options than just them. The Shredder as another villain character, fighting with a darker style of ninjutsu, April O'Neil, the news reporter and older sister figure to the Turtles, Casey Jones, the masked vigilante with sports-themed weaponry. Alopex is a fan-favorite character from the modern comics with a super-fast, Sheik-like fighting style. There's a lot here. But it's not just old stars duking it out here. The Loud House is one of Nickelodeon's more recent hits, getting its big break in 2016 and growing from there. I admit this one's beyond my time, so I haven't actually seen any of it, but apparently it's successful enough that 2 of its main characters are confirmed so far. Lincoln is the middle child of the Loud family, usually seen trying to be a voice of reason between his 10 sisters, and you thought your childhood was crazy. At his core, he's a pretty typical 12-year-old kid, and it shows in his intro with all the surprisingly mundane stuff he does. Riding a bike or swinging a yo-yo around are pretty normal compared to all the larger-than-life abilities the rest of the cast has, and I could see that being a recurring thing with his moveset. Could even transfer into a fighting style that makes him a jack-of-all-trades, who can do everything decently but doesn't have any standout traits. Nice and reliable. Though something's going on with this clip where he dons a pair of shades and swings what looks like a sword. Is that a nod to him being into comic books? Tagging along with Lincoln is his younger sister Lucy, a 9-year-old goth kid with an affinity for all things dark and supernatural. Shown in full during her intro when she pulls out a pitch-black umbrella to attack with, and in a gameplay clip where she recovers upward by hitching a ride from a bat. She also has an uncanny ability to sneak up on people in the show, apparently, which got interpreted here as a straight-up teleport move. Will it function like Meta Knight's dimensional cape? Overall, I could see a really tricky playstyle here, based around surprising her opponents with strong mix-ups and stuff like that. I'm sure there are other characters who could show up here, but like I said, this show's not my area of expertise. But I wouldn't be shocked if another member of the Loud family made it in before all is said and done. Now it's time for every other confirmed character so far. Strap in because we got a lot to go over. First, Danny Phantom is here putting his ghost powers to use, though we're stuck relying on just his intro because he never attacks in any of the gameplay segments. But even just the intro raises questions. Will he actually be able to fly? If so, is it an up special or a float mechanic similar to Peach? Is that long slide part of an attack, or does he have very low traction? We see an eye laser and a concentrated explosion, but what other moves does he have? Can he temporarily possess people as a unique command grab? Does he have any stuff he picked up in later seasons, like ice powers or his ghostly whale? We'll have to wait and see. Arnold wouldn't have meshed well with a fighting game since he's more the type to talk things out, so his rival/secret stalker Helga Pataki is here in his place. We only have a little of her moveset to go off, consisting of a slingshot, though not a golden magic slingshot, a move where she kicks up a cloud of dust, and a counterattack using a baseball bat. Though I think we all know what her back throw will be, and it'll probably be a kill throw. Next is the megalomaniac alien with an ego bigger than his brain. Zim's known moves include a spin attack using the legs that grow out of his pack, an apparent forward air with the legs stabbed forward, a special where he tosses a bomb disguised as a lawn gnome, and a move where he orders his robot servant Gur to charge forward for reasons I'm not sure I want to know. If he uses his pack's legs to move around like he does sometimes in the show, I bet Zim's probably going to be pretty fast and evasive, and if he isn't a trapper character with unnecessarily complicated setups, I will be highly disappointed. Here's a deep cut. All the way from Real Monsters, Oblina got the nod over her 2 friends. Most of her footage comes from her doing attacks in clips that focus on other characters. Typical, lying in wait under the radar, waiting to scare someone. There are some very fast attacks here, and between that and her size, I think we have a pixie archetype on our hands. How fitting, small speedy characters are many fighting game players' worst nightmares. Other known moves include some kind of area of effect scare, and one where she hurls her internal organs as a projectile. How appropriately disgusting. Next we have someone surprising. While a character from the Wild Thornberrys wasn't too wild an idea, I figured Eliza would get the nod first. Instead, we have her dad, and what footage we have of Nigel has him contorting himself into a bunch of weird poses to attack with, which is a weird fit for a guy who travels the world with his family making nature documentaries, though a screenshot shows something interesting. An attack, possibly his forward tilt, where he throws a punch while taking a pose almost like an orangutan. Wait, is his thing going to be imitating the animals he's studied? Speaking of curveballs, our fighter from Rugrats is the in-universe movie monster Reptar. Guess that's one way to avoid having to explain why your game lets people beat up a baby. Reptar is much smaller here than usual. Maybe it's actually a guy in a suit? Better keep him away from any lizards. Still, he's big enough to be the game's premier heavyweight, and his moveset involves typical kaiju stuff. Body blows, tail attacks, atomic breath to make the parody complete, and this fire breath attack with impressive range. Is this a special, or is it a forward smash with absurd reach? Last but not least is the weirdest of the confirmed 14. This in-universe food mascot from Ren and Stimpy showed up before his show's title characters did. As potentially our other heavyweights so far, Powdered Toast Man's known attacks include a rapid jab, an apparent up special where he launches himself out of a toaster, and a move where he, am I reading this right, shoots croutons from his armpit? This guy's going to get mean to hell and back, isn't he? That's everyone we know of so far. Well, officially. You see, a version of the game's box art made the rounds shortly after the trailer dropped, and while all the characters are shrouded in silhouettes, we can make out a few notables who haven't been revealed yet. First, we have a pair who also got hinted at by the trailer itself. Some kind of Avatar content was easy to see coming, and a couple clips indeed take place on a stage based on the Western Air Temple. And considering the box art silhouettes include a glimpse of Aang's hand and what is very obviously Korra, the two of them are pretty much soft confirmed at this point. While both are masters of the elements, Aang and Korra will likely have very different movesets due to their different styles of bending. I could see Aang putting greater focus on airbending than the other three elements, with stuff like using his glider for his up special or the air scooter technique he invented as a side special, and a passive zoner playstyle built around fighting indirectly and outlasting his opponents. In contrast, Korra will lean harder on waterbending and use air least since it's her weakest element, while utilizing a more in-your-face, footsies-based fighting style. Next, Powdered Toast Man may have caught people by surprise, but he makes more sense upon seeing Ren and Stimpy clearly visible on the upper part of the box art. Honestly, there are a few ways they could be handled, but my gut feeling is they'll be a duo fighter, sort of like the Ice Climbers, with the neurotic Ren as the lead and the simpleton Stimpy tagging along and pitching in with varying levels of success like the idiot he is. Speaking of characters from 90s cartoons, another shows up near the bottom, and it's caused a little stir. CatDog's very unusual build opens up a lot of weird moveset options depending on how it's handled in-game. Will they move around on all fours or upright? Which they use when will determine how easy or difficult they'll be to hit. Will they keep their moveset simple with the two of them acting in tandem? Or will they have a pseudo stance system with different stats based on whether cat or dog is in front? We need to see them in action to know for sure. But who else could possibly show up here? There's a long list of characters in Nickelodeon's repertoire, so let's attempt to go over as many of the ones that weren't covered earlier as we can that I think are at least worth keeping an eye on. First, someone who is weirdly absent. I could see the devs wanting to give Hartman's creations a wide berth after everything that's gone down, but with Danny Phantom already confirmed, I'd be surprised if Timmy and his fairy godparents weren't here as well. All the stuff he's wished for across the show's long run would make for a crazy moveset. Switching from magic to science, Jimmy Neutron is the other character I'm surprised we haven't seen yet. The big-headed boy genius is a complete thematic opposite to Timmy, but his own moveset potential is just as impressive with his laboratory's worth of machines and inventions, even if they don't always work exactly as planned. 2 Avatar characters are more or less confirmed, but I could see another sneaking in before all is said and done. The biggest standout is Zuko, aka the shining example of a redemption arc in animation, using firebending, skilled swordplay, and all those acrobatics and stealth moves he pulled off when incognito as the Blue Spirit. Alternatively, Katara could combine a mastery of waterbending with healing and supportive effects that help herself or her teammates, if team battles are a thing in this. As mentioned before, I think Eliza Thornberry could stand out in different ways than her dad. Her ability to talk to animals would lend toward a unique Beastmaster style of moveset. And with Zim here already, I wouldn't be surprised if his archenemy follows behind to keep tabs on him. Wannabe paranormal investigator Dib could use his smarts and his dad's technology to take Zim head on in hopes of exposing his plans for world domination. And that's just the characters from series that are already present. What about the ones that aren't? Jenny Wakeman, is another notable absence with a very distinct moveset. All of her built-in weaponry could give her a niche kinda like Samus has. For someone else from the early 2000s, how about Rudy using magic chalk to draw weapons, creatures, obstacles, etc.? Snap could even lend a hand for a few attacks. If anything, a chalk zone stage is just begging to happen. How about Otto Rocket or the other kids from Rocket Power? A moveset built around extreme sports could be really different next to the wackier stuff we've seen from other characters. Similar name but very different, Rocco's cartoon was a cult classic with its own brand of envelope-pushing humor. Building a concept for the Wallaby without accidentally raising the game's age rating might be tougher than he probably wishes it was. Maybe El Tigre? The kid who can't decide if he's a superhero or supervillain could borrow a few ideas from Wolf's moveset with his claw attacks, while throwing out some distinct moves like firing his hands out on chains. That's a tether grab waiting to happen. Finally, I'm not entirely sure how far the devs or the Nickelodeon higher-ups are willing to go with tapping into stuff beyond Nicktoons shows, but it's worth keeping in mind. Nick Jr., live-action characters, guest fighters from other IPs Viacom is doing stuff with, former collabs that might be harder to pull off now due to being acquired by a business rival. It's a lot to go over. And that is what we know so far of every character currently revealed, the few characters accidentally revealed, and as many characters who could get revealed that I thought stuck out. We got an interesting batch of them so far, to say no less of the stages, which I've hardly said anything about at all. For now, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the unrevealed ones is a Nickelodeon Studios stage with hazards that dump slime on people, and if there isn't a stage based on Legends of the Hidden Temple, I will be highly disappointed. It's weird having another big-name platform fighter around all of a sudden. There'll probably be talk of this thing trying to be a smash killer, but honestly I don't think it's trying to do that. It's just trying to exist alongside Smash. We'll see if it can pull that off. Hey, if this is your first time around my channel, check out my other content. I actually do mostly Smash-themed stuff, usually focusing on analysis and theory crafting similar to this video. Who knows, maybe you'll end up just as entertained and enthralled. And if you're a channel regular and got surprised by this little detour, hey, I was a kid once too. Besides, with DLC wrapping up soon, it can't hurt to branch out. Special thanks for this video goes to these people here. Thanks as well to my patrons for their continued support through all the twists and turns we've been through lately. So, until next time, this is a really weird timeline, isn't it?